Stocks fall after a disappointing start to the earnings season. Financials and industrials are the big drags, while metals remain a bright spot. Mid-caps are faring relatively better.
Axis Bank reports a sharp jump in provisions in a big surprise for investors, while the technical provisions against secured assets strengthen the books for the future. An uptick in regular credit costs as well tracks the stock.
Wipro's first quarter performance is largely in line and nothing to crow about, but some big deal wins offer some optimism for the future. The stock perks up.
The Prime Minister's office is likely to hold a meeting with key stakeholders on the rare earth crisis today, say sources. Discussions on alternative supply chains and an incentive scheme for rare earth magnets could be on the agenda.
And Clean Science Tech skids over 8% after it trims margin guidance and points to a likely stake sale by promoters. But Nuvoco Vistas climbs up on a sharp jump in operating profit and a significant reduction in debt. It is turning out to be an action-packed Friday, and just as we were about to say that the stocks are at the day's low, there has been a very, very swift recovery from those levels. It remains choppy, as choppy can be. You're watching Business Lunch live from the CNBC TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Hormas Patakia. With me is Vamakshi Dhoria. Well, Vamakshi, the Bulls and the Bears both are ensuring that we go into the weekend huffing and puffing with no Friday chills, if you would like to call it that, or maybe even pun intended.
Well, absolutely no Friday cheer for the markets, Hormas, and this is quite surprising given how the global markets have performed overnight. The handover from Wall Street was so good in terms of, they had seen some record highs. Even when you look at the progress that is being made on the India-US deal, President Donald Trump himself had hinted that the deal could be, likely it could be expected anytime soon. But despite that, the markets continue to consolidate. Today, they managed to slip below the 25,000 mark, and a large chunk of this downtick is being driven by the Nifty Bank, of course, after the numbers that came in from Axis Bank. But on the other hand, HDFC Bank as well as ICICI Bank are set to report their numbers tomorrow, that is over the weekend, and both of these counters are too down and out in trade today, and it is these very earnings that will drive the market sentiment on Monday as well. The broader markets, though, they continue to fall as well, and the fall, however, in the broader markets is slightly measured as compared to the fall that we're seeing in the benchmark indices. The advanced decline ratio largely in favor of the declines. In terms of stock-specific moves, take a look at Saregama. That stock is perched almost 5% higher in an otherwise weak session. EMS Limited is one other counter that is doing extremely well in trade today. On the back of numbers, Nuvoco Vistas is also flying high in trade today. But, let's focus in on numbers then and start with the one that is dragging the Nifty Bank low, and that is Axis Bank. The asset quality worsened and slippages rose in the first quarter of FY26. The management in the conference call said that they are confident about growing faster than the industry and also talks about the technical impact. Let's listen in.
NPA classification happens on days past due criteria, and then there is qualitative criteria which is agnostic of days past due. We have not changed any day past due parameters because they are driven by regulation. The qualitative parameters, as we have previously indicated, we benchmark to most prudent in market on an annual basis. That benchmarking exercise happens for us in the period of Feb and March, and the implementation of that happens from the next fiscal. The purpose of the benchmarking is to make sure that our balance sheet is resilient and can withstand any credit cycle that comes our way, therefore giving you a robust, credible outcome when growth comes back. So roughly, if you look at what we do is quarter one and quarter three are cyclical, and the way I would request you to think about it is in quarter one and quarter three, about 25% or thereabouts of slippages are from the agri portfolio. So you could apply the maths to 5,400 crores, and roughly about 25% or thereabouts would be agri. The percentage would be broadly similar for last year's rupee crore number. The rest of the 75% is coming entirely from the unsecured business. We are very clear in making a call out saying we do not see stress in the secured part of our retail book as on date.
The management of Axis Bank, there a disappointing first quarter. The management explaining what caused the technical impact and what led to these elevated numbers that came in during the quarter. But Gaurav is here to explain the fine print because the street clearly is not convinced, Gaurav.
Well, as when we talk about Axis Bank, stringent provisioning is something which is not taken in a positive way by the street. And why I'm saying is that when we talk about this stringent provisioning, this has costed the bank almost 600 crores in this quarter, and that is the reason ROAs have come down, ROEs have come down. So it is taking a toll on its book. So let's understand the numbers first. Net interest margins have come down almost by 17 basis points. Now this was anticipated because the street was expecting around 12 to 13 basis points. And when we talk about Axis Bank, they are also saying that the 13 basis point of fall is coming up because of the repricing of assets. But on the other hand, credit cost was higher, and the main reason was they have made their provisioning norms more stringent. Now what they have done is that the provisioning, because of this stringent norms, provisioning has gone up almost by 800 crores in this quarter itself. Gross slippages have come to around 8,200 crores, which could have been at around 5,500 crores if we exclude this technical impact. And that is something which has impacted. Now credit cost comes at around 1.4%. Slippage ratio now comes at around 3.1% on a quarterly basis. Now, what is not also accepted by the street is that when we talk about credit cost, now let's exclude this impact of this technical write-off, then also the credit cost comes at around 1.1%. Street was expecting around 0.9 to 1% credit cost. It is still higher than the expectation, and as a result, profitability has gone down almost by 4% on a year-on-year basis. ROAs have been impacted almost by 15 basis points. ROE got impacted almost by 1.4%, and that is the reason when we talk about stock performance, it is actually struggling in trade. As we speak, it is down more than 3% today.
Well, thanks so much for that, Gaurav. From the top Nifty loser to the top gainer now, Wipro has gained in trade on the back of its June quarter earnings. The IT major reported a muted quarter in line with estimates. Constant currency revenue witnessed a nearly 2% downtick, but the stock trades higher as the company's Q2 guidance points to a 200 basis points improvement. Another key highlight this time around was in fact that the company's robust deal wins. Their total bookings saw an uptick of 2% sequentially and 50% year on year. We spoke to the management on the deal momentum and performance in Europe. Listen in to excerpts from that conversation.
So there is this very strong deal momentum that we have had in quarter one, which we trying to carry to quarter two. Of course, some of these deals will take its own time before we start ramping up. Second half for us will definitely be better than the first half, especially because of the large deal bookings and the pipeline that we have at this point in time. What is very important for us to execute these large deals. And also the pipeline continues to stay strong for us. So that gives us the confidence that H2 will be better than H1.
I think in Europe, we've had, for the last 4 quarters, we've not performed as well as we ought to have. It has been a combination of the macroeconomic environment, lower discretionary spends, but also certain client-specific issues that have played out. We believe we are very, very close to bottoming out. We have a large deal win that we have secured, and also some very good deals that we have also secured in Q1. Our pipeline is good, strong. So we are very, very hopeful of Europe bottoming out and coming back into performance starting second half.
The management of Wipro on the road ahead for the company. Shifting focus now to the rare earth crisis. Sources are telling CNBC TV18 that the Prime Minister's office will hold a meeting today on the rare earth magnet crisis, which continues to plague automakers and other industries. The meeting is likely to be attended by key stakeholders, including the Department of Heavy Industries, Mining and Commerce Ministry officials. Ashmit is now joining in with more details on what the electronics industry is seeking from the government. Ashmit, tell us, what are your sources telling you on this very important development?
Well, the electronics industry has written to the government citing serious strategic risk to itself, to its export-led growth, to its competitiveness on account of what it calls Chinese informal restrictions. Informal because the electronics industry says there is no formal notification or direction that has been given. Instead, there are oral directions given to various Chinese companies, basis which such restrictions have been introduced. Now, what's important is that there are three critical chokeholds that the industry says the Chinese have identified. These three chokeholds are: number one, rare earth mineral exports. The electronics industry says, is not unique to the auto industry. The electronics industry, which also uses these magnets, is also impacted by this severely. Number two is recall of Chinese workers. This is something that the electronics industry says is going to come in the way of transfer of technology to Indian workers, to Indian companies. And number three, restriction on capital equipment. This is directly going to impact production going forward. This is something which is imported from China. Again, a big restriction being imposed. These three chokeholds, the industry says, appears to be very carefully calibrated. These are sequential in nature. There's an apprehension that they could be expanded to even other means of technologies and critical exports, which is what leads, in fact, the industry to seek intervention from the government, saying that going forward, the smartphone industry, which has been the poster boy of India's manufacturing story, the exports, which are expected to be north of 32 billion in FY26, are at serious risk if these restrictions continue. That is where the intervention from the government is sought. The industry clearly saying that the government needs to come in, the government needs to help, because if these issues are left unaddressed, it will have serious consequences to the recent momentum of electronics manufacturing in India.
Well, thanks so much for that, Ashmit. An important story that we will be following up on. But let's now put the focus on key earnings expected today. Reliance Industries is set to report its June quarter numbers. The company is expected to see a 16% growth in its profit, while margins may expand. Sonal brings in all the details. Sonal?
Well, a good quarter is expected from Reliance Industries this time around. Remember, the stock is already up 21% this year so far. In terms of revenues, expecting a decline of 8% on a sequential basis. That is because raw material prices have come down. But EBITDA will see good growth, 3% in terms of absolute number. But in terms of margins, it will be a 200 basis points increase to come in at 18.7%. Profits also expected to go higher by 16% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. What will drive growth for Reliance this time around? It will be the O2C, digital and retail business which will drive growth. However, it will be offset by some weakness that we'll see in the oil and gas business. For O2C specifically, it's a 19% YOY increase expected in EBITDA this time, 3% on a sequential basis, which will partly be offset by refinery shutdowns that the company took. For Jio, the ARPU is expected to increase by 1% on a sequential basis. And for the retail business, the expansion will be on the back of JioMart scale-up, operating leverage and increasing footfalls as well. So watching out for these numbers, expecting to be a good quarter where EBITDA will be at a 5-quarter high this time around, continuously seeing an improvement.
Sonal, thanks a lot for that update. Take a short break here on a Business Lunch. The Nifty now down 165 points as we speak. But remember to tune into the all-new CNBC TV18 Prime, bringing you insights from policymakers, business leaders and economists shaping both the world and India's future. CNBC TV18 Prime decodes global shifts and their impact on Indian businesses, giving you unparalleled insights. Tune in to CNBC TV18 Prime at noon for the Global Reset, 1 p.m. for the Big C and the Global Lens at 8:30 this evening.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Cryptos are buzzing in trade and is near an all-time high after the US passes 3 big bills that are expected to bring cryptos into the mainstream. My colleague Manisha Gupta joins us with more on this.
Very positive news coming in from US clearly tells you that there is more support or steam left in case of cryptocurrencies there. So when you look at Bitcoin, well, yes, $120,000 is back onto this one. All-time high has been at around 123. So not too far away from those kind of levels. And if you've been tracking Bitcoin, you do know that it moves very fast when it comes to that. So in the last month, we've seen Bitcoin gain up by 15%. But it's not just about Bitcoin. If you look at the altcoins, Ethereum for that matter, is gained up by 44% in the same time. Well, let me tell you that there are at least 5 to 15,000 cryptos that are perhaps launched on a daily basis, and that's how they get lost as well. But it is 2,000 cryptos which are actually strong, active, have a very strong market capital as well. And within this as well, 50 is something that you will need to perhaps keep an eye on, follow, watch as well if you were looking to invest in cryptos as well. But what I want to talk about today is, it's the crypto week right now, this one, and we have seen a lot of deliberations go through in the US ahead of that. And what we finally do understand is that the 3 laws have been passed by Senate onto this one. One is Genius. Remember, we've been talking about that. It is the guiding and establishing national innovation for US stablecoins. This is something that there has seen a lot of push come in as well. The second one is Clarity. Now, this is about establishing a stronger market structure, a friendlier one when it comes to many of those cryptos. And the third one is Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. What we also do understand is that Clarity is something that you could be looking at the US, rather, Genius is something as an act which the US president perhaps could sign on in today itself. And the other two, Clarity and Anti-CBDC bills, will go in for further discussions if there is an amendment or not. And then it would land into the White House for further signing as well. So it does seem to be moving pretty fast. And this is exactly what is giving a lot of comfort and support in sense of the pricing there.
Well, nothing bit about the Bitcoin. Yes, Manisha, thank you for that update. Nearing record highs is the cryptocurrency. Well, the National Stock Exchange has launched its new monthly electricity futures contract with the aim of helping market participants with a robust platform to hedge against price volatility in the power sector. Now, speaking at the launch event, SEBI Chairman Tuhinkant Pandey said that the upcoming electricity derivatives market will be backed by regulatory safeguards to ensure stable pricing for the participants. Listen.
India has made significant progress in strengthening its energy sector in recent years. The country is successfully balancing the twin goals of meeting rising electricity demand and promoting sustainability. According to the International Energy Agency, 85% of the increase in global electricity demand over the next 3 years will come from emerging and developing economies. India's energy demand, driven by sustained economic growth, is expected to grow rapidly. Consequently, India's share in global primary energy consumption is projected to double by 2035. The Ministry of Power and both regulators, SEBI and CERC, have worked together to facilitate electricity derivatives in India. Electricity derivatives, starting with monthly futures, will provide market participants a transparent and regulated platform to hedge against price volatility. These contracts will complement physical power trading by adding a layer of financial flexibility. Electricity derivatives will help participants plan more effectively by managing price uncertainty, mitigate revenue risks, and attract investments in the power sector.
Well, shifting focus then, the Supreme Court transfers public interest litigations against opinion trading across various high courts to Supreme Court itself. The Supreme Court says these litigations across high courts should be heard by the top court. There have been public interest litigations against opinion trading filed in the Bombay, Chhattisgarh and Gujarat high courts. Opinion trading platform Probo Technologies had approached the Bombay High Court seeking a transfer of all the public interest litigations. A viewer alert, opinion trading applications like Probo allow users to wager money on future outcome of sports, economy, politics and markets.
Interesting developments there. Time to take a short break. But just as we do that, here's some good news for our viewers. India's business news leader is now just a click away, and that is CNBC TV18's all-new app, where you get breaking news, in-depth articles, financial world updates, all of it at your fingertips. You can download the app from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, or even scan the QR code that comes up on your screen. We'll take a short break. Back on the other side. Welcome back. In some big news coming in from the Silicon Valley, investors of Meta and CEO Mark Zuckerberg have reached a settlement to end the $8 billion trial over Facebook users' privacy. The trial, which began on Wednesday, now stands adjourned. The case, which began in 2018 after revelations that data from millions of Facebook users was accessed by Cambridge Analytica, which played a big role in Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Zuckerberg and other officials of the social media giant have agreed for a settlement, but the finer details of the deal are yet to be known.
Well, moving from the US to the UK then, the UK government plans to lower voting age to 16 in a major electoral reform. The government argued that this change will align UK's voting age with that of Scotland and Wales. According to the UK Parliament research, 16-year-olds are more likely to vote than 18-year-olds when they are eligible.
And what could be considered a win for India's diplomacy, the US State Department has designated the Resistance Front as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist organization. The TRF is considered a Lashkar-e-Toiba proxy. It is this outfit that claimed the responsibility for the Pahalgam attack, which killed 26 civilians. The TRF has also claimed responsibilities for several attacks against Indian security forces.
Well, moving on to a path-breaking development in medical science, doctors at Newcastle University have released a study showing that a new IVF technique has helped stop genetic diseases from spreading across generations. The next report tells you more about the process.
The technique, which is banned in the United States, transfers pieces from inside the mother's fertilized egg, its nucleus plus the nucleus of the father's sperm, into a healthy egg provided by an anonymous donor.
For example, rapid heart failure, sudden death, neurodegenerative diseases.
That's Newcastle University's Doug Turnbull.
In some families that we've looked after for many years, it's clearly running through the families. This disease is running through the families. And therefore, what we're trying to do is prevent that transmission. So in effect, you've got the nuclear DNA that makes us all us, and then the mitochondria from a donor woman. That egg is then transferred back, that embryo is then transferred back to the mother, and then she has the baby.
8 children whose mothers underwent this procedure were all healthy at birth, with blood tests showing no or low levels of mitochondrial gene mutations, scientists reported in the New England Journal of Medicine. All have made normal developmental progress, they said. One of the 8 children is now 2 years old.
Some path-breaking developments indeed. We take your leave on this edition of Business Lunch. Numbers of Atul flashing at the bottom of your screen. From Amakshi and me, thank you so much for watching. Midcap Radar on the other side.